Welcome. I don't know about you, but I just had a nice meal. I just spent some time with my family, and then I had the privilege of seeing so many of your faces, of remembering that we are a community, that together we are CBI. And it's a blessing to be here with Cantor Schultz. I'm Rabbi Weintraub. So you should have, we've been encouraging everybody to come pick up the Maxar Lev Shalem. And additionally, we also had it online available to you, so there are lots of different ways. Now I will say, just about any Maxar for Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur will work for you, although the page numbers that I call will not work if you're not using ours. So the Lev Shalem is the primary Maxar of the conservative movement in 2020, 5781. And I'd like us to turn to page 2. This Rosh Hashanah, each of us enters this sanctuary with a different need. Some of our hearts are full of gratitude and joy. They're overflowing with the happiness of love and the joy of life. They are eager to confront the day to make the world more fair. They've recovered from illness or escaped misfortune, and we rejoice with them. Some hearts ache with sorrow, though. Disappointments weigh heavy upon them, and they've tasted despair. Families have been broken. Loved ones lie in beds of pain. Death has taken those whom they cherished. May our presence and sympathy bring them comfort. Some hearts are embittered. They've sought answers in vain. They've had their ideals mocked and betrayed. Life has lost its meaning and value. May the knowledge that we too are searching restore their hope that there is something to find. And some spirits hunger. They long for friendship. They crave understanding. They yearn for warmth. May we, in our common need, gain strength from one another, sharing our joys, lightening each other's burdens, and praying for the welfare of our community. We'll turn the page and read responsively. Now is the time for turning. To everything there is a season and an appointed time for every purpose under heaven. Now is the time for turning. The seasons change, as does the balance of day and night. The birds are beginning to turn and are heading once more towards us, to the south. The animals are beginning to turn to storing their food for the winter. For the earth, for the birds and the animals, turning comes naturally. But for us, turning does not come so easily. It takes an act of will for us to make a turn. It means breaking with old habits. It means admitting that we have been wrong, and this is never easy. It means losing faiths. It means starting over again, and this is painful. It means saying, I'm sorry. It means admitting that we have the ability to change, and this is embarrassing. These things are terribly hard to do, but unless we turn, we'll be trapped forever in yesterday's ways. Dear God, help us to turn from callousness to sensitivity, from hostility to love, from pettiness to purpose, from envy to contentment, from carelessness to discipline, from fear to faith. Turn us around, O God, and bring us back to you. Revive our lives as at the beginning, and turn us toward each other, God, for in isolation there is no life. Now, if you're following along, you'll notice as the sun is setting that this is not only Rosh Hashanah, it is also Shabbat. Now, when these two holidays overlap, they each affect the other. Rosh Hashanah finds some new prayers, Shabbat finds some new prayers to create the synthesis of this sacred day. But as such, we want to welcome the Sabbath, although today we will not have a full Kabbalat Shabbat. And so the essence of Kabbalat Shabbat that we keep is found on page 4.
נשמושים ליום השבת, טוב לרעי שמש העליון להגיב וחסדך ונלחם הלילות, עלי הסוף עלינו ולהגיע בחינות כסמת חיינו ועולה ומסייד אחרתך, מפל מסכנה וקורנו לבדך. צדיקת המה יפרח כארז בלבנון יזכה שתולים בבית אדוני בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו עוד ינובון בסבע דשאים ורעננים יהיו להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי אלוהות אבו אדוני מלך כיוד לבש.
Listen to those articles, tell them about him. Oh, nachon kisame az melamata nasunaratur nenachro.
מקולות מים רבים ערירים משברי ים, אדיר במרום אדוני, אלוקיך נמנו מאוד, וביתך נם הקודש אדוני, לאורך ימים.
Rabbi Harold Schulweis writes, where do I begin? Where do I find God? How do I begin to pray? There is a Tselem Elohim, an image of God implanted in me. And that image of God is found in myself, in whom God breathes Nishmat Chachayim, the holy, divine breath of life. In each of us is a neshama, a soul, whose origin is God. And in prayer I enter into the deepest part of myself, discover who I am, and touch God's presence. So I invite you to rise with us on page 5, to call to worship, to respond to the Baruch Hu. You may be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'yomim v'ravim b'akmapotei hashirim.
ומביא יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ולילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני המרים הרבים.
Page 6.
אהבת עולם את ישראל עמך תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח מבוקרך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם העד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגדנו יומם בלילה, באהבתך תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל, שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
ואהבת את מלאך בכל לבך ונפשך מדך ולדברים השלמים. והשיבת ביתך ולכת בדרך ושם קמך ושם לך וחיה שמצוותה יש אנוכי לך. אני למשל עמו, דבר על בני עצמת הלכם, עצמת הציט, הנבית הציט, הכן נפצה לרנצי, יראת מטוס, סגרתם מצוות הבנאי, וזשמתם, תורת, אמרניכם, אשת עומדים אחריכם, למענתי זכרו ושמחת בתי.
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Please join with me at the bottom of page 7 where you see the really big word, truly. This is our faithful affirmation binding on us that Adonai is our God and there is none other. As we, Israel, are God's people, God redeems us from earthly rulers. Our sovereign delivers us from the hands of all tyrants. God brings judgment upon our oppressors, retribution upon our mortal enemies. God performs wonders beyond understanding, marvels beyond all reckoning. God places us among the living, not allowing our steps to falter, and leads us past the false altars of our enemies. God exalted us above all those who hated us, avenged us with miracles before Paro, offered signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. God smote in anger all of Egypt's firstborn, brought Israel from its mist to lasting freedom, led them through the divided water to the sea of reeds. And as their pursuing enemies drowned in the depths, God's children beheld the power of the divine. They praised and acknowledged God's name, willingly accepted God's rule. We'll turn to the Hebrew.
ומלכותו ורצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו בעולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נר בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף מלכותך רבנך בוקע ים לפני משה זה ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעד ונאמר כי פרע את יעקב וגלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
On page 9, we'll read the blessing at the top of the page, the Hashkivenu in English. Allow us, Adonai, our God, to sleep peacefully and to waken us again to life, our sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace, restore us with your good counsel, and save us for the sake of your name. Shield us, remove from us enemies and pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow, and remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you, God, watch over and deliver us. You are the sovereign, merciful, and compassionate. Ensure our going and our coming for life and for peace now and forever. May you spread over us your canopy of peace. Baruch Atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us and over all the people of Israel and Jerusalem. We'll rise. Today is Shabbat, so we'll sing V'Shamru, then announce with Tichu B'Chodesh Shofar on the next page the reminder of Rosh Hashanah, the Chatzi Kaddish, and then we'll take some time for our personal prayers that will go from page 11 through 17. And this year, as I said, I'll keep repeating, is Shabbat. So in those prayers, we'll add all those words in red to remind us of the gift of Shabbat as well as the sanctity of this holy day. So right now we're on page 9. We'll rise and then continue standing for as long as you're comfortable.
V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם בברית העולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי העולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. תיקו בחודש שופר בכסר יום חגנו כי חוק לישראל הוא משפט לאלוהי יעקב יתקדש מהרבה בעלמא נברא קירותי בימליך מלכותי בחייך וביומך וכהנך בישראל בגלה מזמן קריב ואמרו אמן יש מרבה מברך לעולם יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי קודשה בריחו לעילה לעילה מכל מגעתה ושירתה תושבחתה בנעמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרו amen.
So in that Chatzi Kaddish, we had one of our stumbling blocks. Instead of la'ela min kol berchata, we added a second la'ela. And as we go into this Amidah, we have a few more. We add zochreinu l'chaim. We had another line of micha mocha. We change God in the bracha about holiness to hamelech hakadosh. These small reminders, yes, they trip us up a little bit, but they are there for a reason. They help us see the signs of this season. To say that today, yes, it is Shabbat, but it is also Rosh Hashanah. It is a new year. It is a new day. And today is unlike any other. So we'll take time now, beginning on page 11, for our personal prayer.
מה שבראת ורחוק הרנסי ושחר לפניך ויעשו כולנו בדעת הקלה צורתנו פרשם ודאו לפניך ובדך ובינך ושמך נוראת כל מה שבראת ולכן תן כבוד אדוני אלוהיך כי לא נראית ושך וביטחון כלם חולים לך אהבתך להציך צמיחת כבל ודמתך ושם ישיחך במהרה אלינו, לכן צדיקים מאוד ושפו מאוד וקשיבים רעיני וחצה אדוני אליך ומשמחה וחצים חברך ושם וקשך ברוך אדוני אלוהיך אתה בחתני כל רדית אמנה ברבה, כמו השבת הזה ושום זה. לא ירדנו ים. ולא בכל העולם כולה פתח. ונשווה ורצך. אלוהים וכל צבאות ידך כל השנים אלוהי ישראל מלך ומלכותו וכל משלה ואינו רצינו חטאינו כתנו ואינו רצינו בלבד ונשלח לשייך ונקרא שבת זה ומה זה תבוא מודים אנחנו לה Welcome. Toberim Toberim von der Beteiligung. Fatima, du Vater, Salam Nabi von Patasim. Você está caindo para lá, vamos para nossa tua. A missão está em boa e você não vai casar, não é
When you finished your personal prayer, said we go back and forth between the feeling of Rosh Hashanah and the feeling of Shabbat. So on page 18, if you're able, we remain standing for Vaychulu, giving testimony to the gift of Shabbat.
Vaychulu shamayim ha'aretz ve'ol tzimam Vayechal Elohim bayom hashmi melokto asher asa Vayishbot bayom hashmi mikol melokto asher asa Vayemar Elohim yom hashmi vayikadesh oto Ki bo shama mikol melokto asher bara Elohim lasot Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech avotenu Elohei Avraham melech Yitzchak melech Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Lea Ha'el Hagadol Hagimor ve'Hadorah El Elyon Shamayim ha'aretz Magen Avot bidbaro Mekayem metim b'ma'amaro HaMelech HaKadosh she'en kamohu המניח לעמו ביום שבת קודשו, כי אם רצה להניח להם, לפניו נעמוד ביראה ופחד, ונודה לשמו בכל תמיד, מאון הברכות. אל ההונאות, אדון השלום, מקדש השבת ובית שלי, ומניח מקדושה, ועמדו שני אוהל, זכר למעשה בראשית.
We'll read together at the bottom of the page. Our God and God of our ancestors, embrace our rest. Make us holy through your mitzvot and let the Torah be our portion. Fill our lives with your goodness and gladness with your triumph. Purify our hearts to serve you faithfully, lovingly, and willingly, Adonai our God. Grant that we inherit your holy Shabbat, so that the people Israel who sanctify your name may find rest on this day. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat, who makes the Sabbath holy. We turn to page 19 for Kaddish Shalem.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
Amen.
בעלמא דברה קירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון וחיי נקום בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב, ואימרו ואימרו אמן. ישמי רבה מברך לעולם עולם ויומיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודש הבריחו לעילה לעילה מכל מרחתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמה ואימרו 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 אמן. תתקבץ אלון ומאורון דקה ישראל קדם אבוהון דבשמיא ואימרו 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 אמן. יש למה רבה מצמיה וחיים עלינו ועכו ישראל ואימרו 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 אמן. עושה שלום עם רמיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואימרו ואימרו amen.
So you may be seated. There are markers in melodies that help us find our way. And when I hear the Hasidic Kaddish, what I sometimes call the Happy Kaddish, when I hear that Kaddish Shalem, to me, the time has changed. The season has changed, and it is no longer any other day, but it is now Rosh Hashanah. So Erev Rosh Hashanah on a normal year is an intimate gathering. We come together to begin our prayer in small groups. The numbers expand on Rosh Hashanah to get to the peak of Kol Nidrei and Yizkar before dwindling again slowly as we reach Ne'ilah. And I found this time, these quiet beginnings, to be a moment to share a story. That through that methodology, we can learn a new lesson in that quieter time. So I share this story And it comes as an illustrated children's book by Carrie Doerfeld called The Rabbit Listened. And this book was given to our kids. I'm not sure who to thank, but it's an absolutely wonderful book. And I hope you'll feel the same. So one day, Taylor decided to build something new, something special, something amazing. Taylor was so proud, but then out of nowhere, things came crashing down. Now, if I was turning the pages in the book, you'd have seen in this incredible multi-story wooden block extravaganza that one wrong move and the whole thing fell down. And his friends came. The chicken was the first to notice. Cluck, cluck, what a shame. I'm so sorry, this happened. Let's talk about it, cluck, cluck. But Taylor didn't feel like talking, so the chicken left. Next came the bear. Roar! How horrible! I bet you feel so angry. Let's shout about it. Roar! But Taylor didn't feel like shouting, so the bear left. The elephant knew just what to do. Roar! I can fix this. We just need to remember exactly where everything was. But Taylor didn't feel like remembering, so the elephant left. One by one, they came. The hyena. Ha ha! Let's laugh about it. The ostrich. Let's hide and pretend nothing happened. The kangaroo. What a mess. Let's throw it all away. And the snake. Shh, let's knock down someone else's. But Taylor didn't feel like doing anything with anyone. And eventually, they all left until Taylor was alone. And in the quiet, Taylor didn't notice the rabbit. But it moved closer and closer and closer until Taylor could feel its warm body. And together they sat in silence until Taylor said, "Please stay with me." And the rabbit listened. The rabbit listened as Taylor talked. The rabbit listened as Taylor shouted. The rabbit listened as Taylor remembered and laughed. The rabbit listened to Taylor's plans to hide, to throw everything away, to ruin things for someone else. And through it all, the rabbit never left. And when the time was right, the rabbit listened to Taylor's plan to build again. "I can't wait," Taylor said. "It's going to be amazing." The end. And I have to say that when I read this story for the first 3 times, I accidentally on purpose kept saying the rabbi instead of the rabbit. But in a way, those characters overlap. In our lives, at some moment in time, we've all been the Taylor. We've been the person who worked so hard to build something up only to see it come tumbling down. We've all been the rabbit who was patient and kind and compassionate and listened. And we've all been the hyena who just wanted to laugh it away, or the ostrich who hid in the sand. We've all been the elephant who came in and said, "I know exactly what to do to solve your problem." And sometimes we might have even been the snake who said, "Let's go destroy it for someone else." Now, I think, though, the most common, types are that elephant. And sometimes these get stereotyped into men and women, but I don't think those lines always make sense. Some of us hear a problem and our first answer is, how can we fix it? I'm going to make it better for you right now. But the thing is, right now is not always the time to make it better. Sometimes we need a little bit of patience. Sometimes we just need to hear about the day that was without interjecting how to make it better. Some of us try to listen and share that presence. Sometimes, though, we want to shout or cry, And sometimes what we do in that moment is to do what we would need, but not necessarily what the other person would need. In my life, I've done 4 units of clinical pastoral education. I've done thousands of hours of chaplaincy and rabbinics. And of those thousands and thousands of hours, the lesson that was ingrained over and over and over again was how hard it is to actually listen. Because what do we do so often? Instead of listening, we hear the first line and then we're thinking about our response. We think about what we need to say to fix it, solve it, shout it, do something. And yet so often, what's really needed is to hold the hand, to put an arm around the shoulder, to hear the words that come, to take a moment, and then to say. And this skill of listening is one that has to be continually practiced, has to be continually cultivated. You know, the other day I was talking to a dear friend, and with this coronavirus pandemic, her spouse is serving in the military across the country, and what they thought would be one experience has turned into another as they have not been allowed to see each other for months. So my first instinct, even after thousands and thousands of hours of, hey, guy, listen, was to say, oh, well, what if you do this or do that or that? And then I stopped myself and I said, friend, what do you need? What do you want from me right now? Do you want me to start brainstorming ideas with you? Or do you want to just tell me the story? And then we had a very different type of conversation. Then it was a dialogue as opposed to me interjecting my monologue. And in this moment in time, when we all do have that distance, when we're not able to have that physical sign of compassion, and it's even harder. Because when we're in person, if there's a lull in the conversation, a moment of silence, it's no big deal. But when we're talking on the phone or on the screens, suddenly we feel the need to fill that silence. And yet, that silence can say a lot. That silence can say, I'm here for you. I love you. I care for you. We're here together. So as we continue our service, let's think about that silence. Let's think about that listening. Let's think about how we can continue to be together, even as we sit apart. Shabbat Shalom. Let's try to be the rabbit this year. On page 22, the cantor is going to lead us towards the bottom of the page in a melody of Kol HaNeshama Tehalel Yah, that every breath should praise God.
Kol HaNeshama Tehalel Yah, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Kol HaNeshama Tehalel Yah, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Kol HaNeshama Tehalel Yah, Hallelujah, 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 Hallelujah. Kol HaNeshama Tehalel Yah, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Kol HaNeshama Tehalel Yah, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Kol HaNeshama Tehalel Yah, Hallelujah, 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 Hallelujah. Kol HaNeshama Tehalel Yah, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Kol HaNeshama Tehalel Yah, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. כל הנשמה תהלל, יא, הללויה, 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 הללויה.
At the top of 23, may it be your will, Adonai, our God, and God of our ancestors, that this year, 5781, be one of balanced and mindful growth for us as individuals, for our families and our communities. May we return next year in good health, oh God, in good health, and in appreciation of a year of greater peace, a year in which we deepened our lives through learning, through the performance of mitzvot, a year in which we were conscious that we were aware of the divine presence, the Shekhinah, in our life, a year in which we strengthened our shared commitment to tikkun olam, to the betterment of this world. Ken Yahir Ratzon. Now, Cantor will lead us in the Kiddush. If you have a glass of wine nearby, take it out and lift it up. We're on page 24, and again, it is both Shabbat and Rosh Hashanah, so we'll be intermingling.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher machal banu mikol העם ורוממנו מכל אסון וקידשנו במצוותיו ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו מעמך את יום השבת הזה ואת יום הזיכרון הזה יום זיכרון תרועה מאהבה מקרא קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ולמרך אמת וקיים לעד ברוך אתה אדוני מלך על כל הארץ מקדש השבת בישראל ביום הזיכרון ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Chaim. We turn now to page 25 and remain standing for Aleinu.
עלינו לשמח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה יוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שמת חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים משתחווים בתים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא Kakatum Doratecha, Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Amen. V'nema v'haya Adonai l'melech b'kol haaretz b'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shema
May be seated. We remember this week Fanny Hagendorf, Bernard Mayer, Albert Seaman, Elvira Shankman, Harry Hirsch Kolitz, Rose Casper, Judel Kurtzner, Abraham Blacker, James Bondi, Yetta Podgar, Calvin Weiskopf, Lisi Wise, Saul Glassman, Matthew Domber, Sarah Scher, Sherry Richmond, Peter Granick, Helen Roche, Ann Cobran, Harry Jacobs, Benjamin Goodman, Dolores Gordon, Philip Gold, Nathan Sunken, Arnold Orloff, Harry Miller, Carl Berger, Joseph Fisher, and Rose Vinegar. Grant that the memories of those who have gone before us be a source of strength for us and for all in the house of Israel. May the souls of our departed find peace in your sheltering care, and may we be blessed with peace, tranquility, and the fullness of life. If you are saying Kaddish, please rise with me on page 26. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, bi'alma tivrach rutei v'yamlech malchutei, b'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'yamru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha ambrichu. La'ela, la'ela, mikol berchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechamata, demaran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlam Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imru mav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol Yisvei tevel v'imru amen. So I wish you a Shabbat Shalom. I wish you a Lashana Tovah. Tomorrow morning, Psukei de Zimra and Shachrit will be on this same channel at 9 a.m. You won't see me in Cantor initially. We'll be coming up at 10 o'clock for the Torah service, and then for my words of Torah and the Musaf. And for those who are joining us in person tomorrow, you are also invited at 10 o'clock. The Psukei de Zimra and Shachrit is on this method only. I do want to remind you that if there is any issue with the streaming, the Facebook, I think, usually pops back most quickly. And the stream spot on the website usually doesn't break as often. So there's advantages and disadvantages to everything, but we hope for a technologically cooperative holiday. I know this is different and challenging and hard for us all. And in many ways, the 27th Psalm on page 27 addresses this exactly. Adonai ori v'ishimi mi'ira. Adonai is my light and my help, who shall I fear? Adonai is the stronghold, who shall I dread? Things are working out right. We're here. It's a new year. It's good. One thing I ask of God, Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai ota v'keshifti b'veit Adonai kol yemei chayai, to dwell in the house of God all the days of my life. Lazot panom Adonai ulacher b'hechalot, to behold God's beauty and to see God's sanctuary. Those words are so much more visceral this year. Yesterday when I brought my children and my wife here, it was the first time they'd been in the sanctuary since March. And it was beautiful and terrible and wonderful and challenging all at the same time. We're right in the middle of this psalm. Adonai, hear my voice as I cry out. Be gracious to me, answer me. It is you who I say, seek my face. You have been my help. Don't forsake me. Don't hide your face. Don't abandon me, my God, my deliverer. This psalm seems so relevant this year. Show me your way. Lead me on a straight path. Lulei hamanti lerot batov Adonai be'eretz chaim kaveh el Adonai hazak v'yametz libecha v'kavel Adonai. I trust. Let me trust. Let it be that I can trust to see God's goodness in the land of the living. Let us place our hope in God. Chazak ve'emetz, be strong, take courage, and place your hope in God. We'll conclude our service this evening with Yigdal, page 28.
Yigdal Elohim chai v'yishtamach nimtza mi'et metziuto echad ben yachid k'yivuna ne'am megaven
Mighty Michael,
Shem Tehilato, Metim Yechayel, Berov Chasto, Baruch Adonai Shem Tehilato.
So for me, one of the second simanim, the second signs of the new year, is this melody for Yigdal. This small change. The words are the same, but the feeling is different. And this year again, with everything, the words are the same, but the feeling is different. So what we are striving to do as we come together is to bring the feeling of Rosh Hashanah, the feeling of the Aseret Yemei Tshuva, the 10 days of repentance, and eventually the feeling of Yom Kippur and Sukkot and Simchat Torah, so that this year, this 5781, will be a year of blessing, will be a year of community, will be a year of hope. L'shana tova tikatevu v'techatemu. May you be inscribed and sealed in the book of life. We'll see you tomorrow. Yashar koach.
Yes, God.